Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU the Podcast. Welcome to MotivationU the Podcast. My name is Bob Ganzak, and we come to you every week at 11 o'clock and talk about leadership. We talk about people that live in our own towns and our neighborhoods and are great leaders, and you don't have to have the name of Musk or Buffett or Gates or whoever else you want to throw at the end of that to be a great leader. You know, some of the best leaders that we know may be running your local store down the street, the Publix or the Kilwins or the Dollar General. But something happened last night, and I wanted to share that when we talk about leadership, and then I'll introduce my guest and we'll get into the program. I'm a big baseball fan, and I'm a Detroit Tiger fan. And Miguel Cabrera is on the verge of doing something that not many players have ever done. As a matter of fact, only two other players have done this. And in one thing, nobody has done it, and that is to have 3,000 hits in his career, 500 home runs, 600 doubles, and be hitting over career average of over 305. A lot of numbers thrown at you. Only two other players have come close to that, which is Henry Aaron and Albert Pujols. And Cabrera will be the third. And he will be the only that has his average over that. And last night, he ended the game with 2,999 hits.
Wow.
So maybe today that happens. But he was interviewed after, and everybody wanted to talk to him about his accomplishments. And I cannot say what he actually said in the interview because there was a word in there that he used, but so I'll kind of edit it a little bit. But he was asked about that accomplishment, and he said, "Who cares?
Wow.
We lost the game." He used a descriptive word in there. We lost the game. When did this game become about individual accomplishments? And when I heard that and I saw that, I was like, Leadership 101. Here is one of the greatest players of all time, and he's focused on the game and the team and the success of the team. And when you think about a meaningless game in April, it was 40-some degrees in Detroit last night, so it's cold, meaningless game. Every opportunity for a superstar to put the focus on him, and yet he reflected it back on the team. And that's leadership, and that's something that we want to talk about and find out more about. So, with that being said, my guest today, Christina Ramos. Christina with Touching Hearts at Home.
Thank you for having me, Bob. We're so excited to be here today.
Well, I am excited to have you. We met before many months ago at a Meldon Law. We were both guests, I think, that day, or I was there watching, and you were a guest on the Meldon Law podcast.
And look at us now.
And here we are. So what is Touching Hearts, and how did you get involved with that?
Sure, great question. So Touching Hearts at Home is actually a family-owned business. My parents started the company. We're going on 11 and a half years. And it's a pretty cool story. It was actually based out of a need that our family had. And through some challenges and tribulations, my parents decided we were going to help other families after we kind of came out of the other side of our challenges. So 13 and a half years ago, my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia, and our worlds were flipped upside down. It's the first time we were dealing with, decline of an aging loved one. And it was rather drastic and very, very rapid. From 1 week to the other, she was living on her own, completely independent, taking care of herself, driving, you name it, she was doing it. She was Wonder Woman. And upon the diagnosis and her, just acting a little peculiar on a certain day, the next week she was living in our house with my parents, not driving anymore, and couldn't take care of herself, from brushing her teeth to feeding herself. It was unbelievable. And
how old was she at that time?
She was in her early 70s. So, it was rather young, but yes. Alzheimer's doesn't know age or numbers. And, we're so fortunate that she's still with us, but dealing through everything and going through all of that. My parents were working full-time jobs. I was in a full-time job right out of college. And, there's a lot going on. You have to now look at specialty doctors, new medications, treatment options. That's overwhelming enough. But add on another layer, she was a wander risk. So we could be sleeping, 2:30 a.m., she's walking out the door, going to work because she doesn't know any better, and you're just on constant panic and alert. So we had to rely on home care and learn the whole new world of home care and what does that mean. And we learned about 24/7 care, which is where you have a caregiver constantly. And thank God we had some horrible experiences with the world of home care because it got us to where we are today. But, someone with dementia, you're trying to eliminate as much change as possible. And with some of the agencies we were using, they were rotating new strangers every 2 to 3 hours, which for us...
Interesting how you say new strangers.
Yeah, because we would never see them again. And for us, with normal functioning minds and no cognitive impairments, it was confusing. But add my poor Nana, and she's wondering, what is going on? Should I be confused? Why am I confused? Who are you? Should I know you? So it was just exacerbating all of her anxiety and confusion. It was trial and error. My dad started really investigating, and we were all researching, what are the state of Florida regulations for caregiving agencies, and who are these people? Do they have to have experience? We had one gentleman come in. I was on duty that morning before going off to work, and he's looking at me like a deer in headlight, and I'm telling him, let's just get her up out of bed. We'll take her to the restroom, change her brief, and we'll put her in her chair in the living room, and she'll be good until lunchtime. You just bring her food to the table.
And you were telling him
oh,
that.
yeah. And he's looking at me like, I don't want to get her out of bed. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to hurt her. I've never changed an adult diaper. And we're kind of looking at each other in this real, raw human interaction like, well, why are you here as a caregiver? And, as we talked to more of these caregivers, we learned more details, things that these agencies weren't telling us. And this poor gentleman was with a staffing agency, not a medical staffing agency or a healthcare-related agency. He told us, I was at a bank yesterday and we're answering phones. And today they just gave me your address. I didn't know this. So he walked off the job, and I can't say I blame him, but we were really starting to hold these agencies
probably
accountable.
Applaud him for doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Instead of letting me leave and him staying here.
Yeah.
And, there were other caregivers that when she was ready to walk off and go to work, they believed her. She's got to go to work. She's going to go walk. And we're like, no, don't believe anything she says. But these were some of those things where we noticed the caregivers just were not the right type of skilled people. They had no experience, if that.
You just shocked me with that
crazy
that information.
We learned, besides the staffing agencies, that companies were using, some agencies are called a registry. We had to learn this the hard way. They don't even manage their employees. They're not allowed. And they hire just independent contractors. You don't know if they have their certifications or whatnot. And when they decide to show up, they show up. When they don't, they don't. They don't notify the agency doesn't notify you. So it was always, this guessing game.
They're putting people in your house. I'm sorry, I can't go there. But,
Yeah, and, the call-outs.
Are they bonded? Are they,
No, you have no idea. So then we also realized that other agencies, if they were hiring their own employees, and that sounded like music to our ears, we quickly realized they were just hiring warm bodies, anybody who wanted a paycheck. And that's where they didn't have that experience and the skill sets that you really need to be caring after a human being. So it was frightening. It was shocking. But my dad and my mom, were praying about it. And my dad was in banking, really lucrative career for a couple decades. And he decided to quit his job. He wanted to help people. He wanted to serve. And I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of my mom. They decided together they were going to start this company and really embrace it with this mindset of helping other families, the whole mission to serve.
So how many families have you impacted?
Oh, that's a great question. We need to do some number diving there, but at least 100 a year. So, lots and lots of families. And I think one of the best parts is being able to help them, even if it's just the phone call and they're not a client yet, or if they never become a client, that's fine. We want to be a resource to families because we know what it's like when your world is flipped upside down and you're trying to navigate this world of doctors and physical therapy and speech therapists. I mean, it's overwhelming. There are other members in the community, seniors themselves might call our office, and they're just looking for where to get a meal or how to get assistance with hearing aids. And we want to be that connection for them to hook them up with the right resource. So we love what we do.
We're talking with Christina Ramos from Touching Hearts at Home. And we're coming to you live from here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, this incredible facility. We have some folks standing outside at the window and watching, some Dale Carnegie graduates and some other individuals. We have an audience today, which is kind of nice. And we're inside the Coach's Podcast room. And yesterday I was talking to Freddie Wiebe, who is one of the owners of Spurrier's and a partner with Coach Spurrier. Great. And yesterday was his 77th birthday, not Freddie's, but Coach Spurrier's, and they had a big party here last night. So awesome. But every time you come here, it doesn't matter what went on the night before, the place is spotless. Always. I mean, meticulous. It's just an incredible facility. I love being here. The food is incredible. The ambiance, the museum, all of that is just so special. Now, we want to talk about leadership in a moment, but where did your world begin, and how did you get to Gainesville?
Great question. So my family is Cuban on both sides, and they both landed in Key West, Florida. So it's very meaningful and impactful.
What years did your parents get here?
Early 60s, 70s. Yeah. Okay. And both grew up here. I remember going back as a child, but we moved to Gainesville when I was 3 years old. So, really, really early in childhood, but we'd always go back. So Key West is home.
So they came from Cuba.
Uh-huh.
How old were they when they journeyed?
My dad was a teenager, and my mom right around there.
All right. So it was because we've had Peter Enigo from Miapa, who came here. My daughter-in-law's mother and father are both from Cuba, and they came in like 80, 81.
Yep.
When that whole exodus happened at that time, and then we've had so many individuals. Soli Schrack from Comfort Temp, who is also born in Cuba and moved here. Talia Milan, the Milan family from Okita, America. Orlando Milan, her father, he came from Cuba. So we've had a lot of individuals on this program.
That's amazing.
From Cuba. So I love that thought process. Thank you. Now, my favorite place in the world, as you can ask my wife, is Key West. I mean,
I don't blame you.
I absolutely love Key West. I would live there in a moment if I could.
Gotcha.
Now, I told you before we came on that I had a student in a class summer of 2018, and I don't recall her name. I'll look it up. But her uncle owns Pepe's.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And that's her family restaurant.
It's
her uncle's,
a great restaurant.
which is just one of the staples in Key
Iconic,
West.
yeah.
You have got to go to Pepe's if you're in Key West. Breakfast is like
unbelievable. Oh yeah.
And their Bloody Marys are incredible, but that's beside the point. The food is awesome.
You can't beat it.
So how often do you get back?
So I try to go at least once a year. My favorite time, Bob, is mini season. I don't know if you like lobster, but I'm a big fan.
Yep.
And that's always so much fun to go out on the boat and enjoy. I used to live in Miami for quite some time, so going to Key West for the weekend was just, regular occurrence, monthly.
Yeah, you had mentioned it's become so commercialized, but you can still find those little pockets of places that you can go. When my wife and I go, we there's a bed and breakfast that we stay at all the time, and it's a 3-4 blocks off of Duval Street, and it almost feels like you're not in a tourist town.
That's the way to do it.
Because you step out of your place and there's just homes and local people, and so we don't get that feeling. We can walk down to Duval Street and experience it, and then go home.
Yeah.
And
best of both worlds.
And enjoy our life. So, and I haven't been there since 2017, and I have not mentioned this to my wife. I think it's on the calendar this year that we've got to get back to Key West this year. It's been 5 years this July.
Wow. Well, I'll send you a list of our favorite places to
Please
go.
do.
And we like to bike ride when we go down there.
Maybe we'll throw our bikes on the back of the truck and take them with us and ride around, because I used to bike all the time down there, but
it's my favorite.
have not done it in the last couple of years.
Stress-free.
My problem is this. I usually try to, schedule as much time as I possibly can afford, both financially and time-wise. It's never enough.
Yep.
I mean, Blue Heaven. I mean, I'm thinking about, I could go the breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
For sure.
You've got to go, spread it out a little bit. Just incredible place.
Lots of great spots.
We could talk about that forever. So, leadership. Now, we talked about in your experience of getting into this business, and in your parents' experience of getting into this business, and the lack thereof of integrity and class and leadership. Your dad grew up in the banking world. What type of leadership do you see in your company?
Sure. So we actually talk about this a lot, our leadership team, and even with our care team, it's important to us. Our culture is definitely focused on that team culture, and everybody knows what our goals are and, our common thoughts and beliefs. I think the overarching thing there and the difference in how we operate and do things is really making sure that we're operating like a family and treating not only our employees, but our clients as family. Because when you talk about caring for someone's grandparent and you treat them like your grandparent, there's a difference.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Yeah, let's do it.
A big one. Some families are dysfunctional.
Very.
So when you talk about you want to operate like a family, you've brought these people together, and they come from a dysfunctional family. How do you encourage them to treat people like your family would treat people rather than the way their family would treat people?
Absolutely. So in our vetting process, we talk about these things. And first and foremost, we want to know that they have experience, but also their why. And usually it's their why as an employee is because of a mother, a father, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle that they had to care for. And that's what really prompted them to this calling of a caregiver. When we meet with the families, and I've seen lots of chaotic families, there's no judgment there, but we are faced with a situation, and I meet with all of the families before we sign up for services. And as much as we want to help any and every family and be there for them, sometimes we're not the right fit for a certain family. And I think leadership, too, for me in this role is really about leading by example. So if I'm ever in a home or meeting with a family who's considering services, and I personally don't feel comfortable with whatever kind of dysfunction or relationship drama and turmoil is going on, that's where I'll say, if I don't feel comfortable being here, I don't want to place a caregiver in the home. And we'll refer them to maybe counseling services, or maybe they're acting out because of grief. Maybe someone's passed or dying. And we can really kind of see some of those warning signs. But while the caregivers are in the home, safety is number one, safety and respect. And that goes both ways for the client and our care team. So they are properly trained on how to handle any kind of circumstance. And we always want the clients to feel safe, but also the caregivers. So we have a lot of great protocols for different situations, because anything and everything can happen. We've seen quite a bit over our last 11 and a half years. And, unfortunately or fortunately, we're not afraid to provide 2 weeks notice to a family if we feel like it's just not a good environment and the home care is not helping. We also have a duty and an obligation to report if we feel like something may be really bad or detrimental to the health of the client or potential client. So we've been through a lot of adverse situations and families, but we navigate accordingly, just really being flexible and agile to really take in as much detail and information and adjust.
Are your families that you bring into to your company and give care to, are they all dementia, Alzheimer?
No.
What? Tell me about what type of...
Great question. I love to talk about it. So with our license, we are allowed to provide personal care, which is helping people, adults over the age of 18 and 21. We can provide assistance with activities of daily living. So bathing, grooming, dressing, feeding, ambulation, and toileting. We also provide companionship, transportation services. We can provide medication reminders, and a list of other great, valuable value. But we also specialize in Alzheimer's and dementia, but that's not all that we do. That's definitely our specialty program because of my grandmother.
So what type of family would, outside of dementia and Alzheimer's, what type of families would contact you?
Yeah, so it could be someone recovering from a surgery. We had a college student who had a knee surgery and couldn't bear weight or do anything for 2 weeks. And we were right there to go run errands.
But you don't actually do the...
Nope, no care. Wound care, no, medical support, but just being right there.
So in all transparency, my wife is an at-home nurse.
Yep.
And works for a medicist.
Yeah, we love a medicist.
And some of this, I've heard many of the stories. She doesn't actually go into the homes anymore, although if there's certain patients that ask for her, or if she needs to fill in, she's more in a management role now, kind of organizing and helping training the nurses and keeping them on schedule. Yet for the years that she did that, it was like really enlightening, because it can be real scary. I mean, it gets dark, in the wintertime at 4:30, and you're sending your wife, down a dark road to a house that she knows little about. I wouldn't say she knows nothing about. Mm-hmm. How do you manage that with your caregivers?
Yeah. So the good thing on our end is when I go to do that complimentary consultation on the front end, I'm learning the ins and outs, where to park, security guard gates, looking around the home for safety, for any kind of hazards.
Dogs.
Dogs, cats, lots of allergies and fears out there. But before our caregivers ever step foot in the home, they know the full plan of care for the client, and they know the ins and outs of their living environment, whether that's a nursing home, hospital, or at someone's home, or their own individual home or apartment. So
that's neat.
Yeah, we're able to really get very granular in the detail we can provide. And also we have a lot of tracking devices through our software where they clock in and clock out, so I can always see where they are.
Little tablet.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah. So it's pretty great.
Yeah. Now, your caregivers, what is their background?
Sure.
And what training do they go through before they get to you?
Yep. So I love being asked this because, at times we've questioned if our criteria to even interview people is too high, especially during a national labor shortage and a national certified nursing assistant shortage. But to even be considered for a position on our team at Touching Hearts at Home, you must have a minimum of 1 to 2 years experience in home care, health care, or senior care. And that's going to show us, that this is not their first rodeo. And they, have seen all sorts of things, run at the gamut, and won't be shocked when they see an adult wearing a diaper, or God only knows what else might be happening depending on their condition. The next thing that we do is we check their background checks. So state of Florida only requires a level 1 background check. We take it the next step above and we go level 2 background check. And then from there, we're checking the different places of employment that they were at to make sure, that they get good references. But we're also doing drug testing to make sure, because that was a problem.
Consistently?
Yep, and randomly. And that is something that the state of Florida does not require, but that our family and our agency really feels is necessary. In addition, something else not required by the state of Florida that we think is well worth the expense is we're checking their driving records to 7 years back, and we're also inspecting their vehicles. I can just remember a disaster time when my grandmother needed to go to an appointment. The caregiver's windshield was cracked in 3 different places from another agency, and it was like, you can't be driving in this vehicle. So we want to make sure that we're alleviating those problems, mitigating them.
And they're not making an Uber run while they're,
right?
Wait, I've got to deliver some food, so I'm part of Uber Treats. Let's see.
Hopefully not. Better not be.
Working 2-3 jobs from one time. I've heard some of those stories that are just like, you're what? You're delivering what? No. You're out selling something. You're not supposed to be delivering that. But, life, yeah. So, how many caregivers do you have working for you now?
We have right around 100. Yep. Wow. And, they are the best of the best. We really are blessed to have them. And we still have a majority of caregivers that were with us the day my parents opened the door. Treating our team and our clients as our number one is so important to us. And that's we have a belief in the inverted organizational chart. So our clients and caregivers are at the top. And, we respect them. We want to make them feel appreciated and hear their input. These caregivers have a lot of experience. And, I think the greatest reward for them is when their clients see positive health outcomes. But it's also always very meaningful when our caregivers detect or catch something or notice something that a doctor or nurse may be overlooked, whether it's a UTI or signs of a stroke. I mean, this is meaningful work. And, it's just because they're with these clients for hours and hours, sometimes more than the family members can be with them. So they know the ins and outs of their clients. They know what to look for and when they're not acting right and how to really pay attention to them for their health and safety. So it's amazing.
We'll dig into that, and we're going to be taking a break here in a moment.
Great.
But we'll dig into some of those things right when we come back from the break. A couple of things that I want to mention. We do have a Dale Carnegie class coming up here in Gainesville, and it begins May 3rd. We moved it back a week due to some scheduling difficulties, and it begins May 3rd. And if you want information on that, you can go and register at jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com. That's jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com. And sign up. There's other ones that are on there in Jacksonville and Lake City, and you can find classes all over the world. There's online programs. Anything you're searching for, try to improve your skills in whatever area it is. Improve yourself. That's just the best advice I can give you. And also, if you would like to ask Christina a question or myself a question, you can write it right down in your Facebook comments and just send it to us, and we will answer that question. Evan will make sure that we have it. Evan Miller, our producer, will make sure that we get that. And we do come to you on many different platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, of course, iHeart Radio. Is that what it's called? Apple Podcasts. No matter where you look for it, you can find our programs there. It's MotivationU the Podcast. So we're going to take a quick break. We're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. My guest is Christina Ramos, and we will be back in just a short little bit. This is MotivationU the Podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back to MotivationU the Podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point, inside the Coach's Podcast room. With me today from Touching Hearts at Home is Christina Ramos.
Thank you.
And Christina, we were talking just before the break about 100 caregivers. Now, these are individuals that are going to be out on the road going to see families.
Yeah.
How many support staff do you have that supports those 100?
The team behind the team.
Yes.
So we have a great office staff. We have quite a few members of the team. You know, the other crazy part about the team behind the team is we always have at least 2 people on call 24/7. So people know when I'm on call, I'll have the phones out, ready to take calls, answer questions. And also I'm always 24/7 for our clients, which is something that we did not have the pleasure of having when my grandma was receiving care before we opened up the company. We would call agencies to say, you know, she had a fall, the caregiver's there, we want to document an incident. And we'd get farmed out to like a overseas answering system that would say, that's great, but call back on Monday morning at 9 a.m. And it was like, what? Emergencies can happen at any time. So that's why we're always 24/7.
Dish Network. Well, I wasn't trying to. Oh, okay. Home care.
Yeah, seriously. So it's a lot, but it's really incredible. We know each and every member of our care team. We get to know, you know, their goals, their aspirations. Many of them want to be nurses eventually. Others, you know, want to be LPNs or med techs or med assistants or Some change total career paths and want to become a real estate agent. So it's just
Nothing
really
wrong with
nice.
that.
Nothing at all. It's really nice learning their goals and seeing them grow and helping them grow.
What is your role?
So I'm the executive director and administrator. So I'm overseeing.
What does that entail?
Yep, we're overseeing our schedules, which are 24/7. We have some clients that are overnight only or daytime shift only, but others that it's 24/7 hours a day. They are, and 7 days a week, they are with their caregivers. So
What is mom's role?
she likes to answer our phones, so she's in the office right now. She'll bring sometimes the doggy by, but she loves to take those messages and also welcome the new caregivers to the team and say hi to the current caregivers, and especially when they bring their children. She likes to keep them company.
And dad?
He's our CEO, so he does a lot of the finances with me. My brother is our head of IT, so he makes sure all of our computers and systems and internet are working and functioning properly. He also helps with some of our insurance. And then we have a team of schedulers and a team of caregiver support roles, from a recruiter to someone who's just making sure that their files are always up to date, whether it's their CPR or their licenses. We need to make sure we're always, doing things by the book. And it's just a really great crew. We function on all cylinders. And, I think the reason why we're able to function so well is because everybody is passionate about what they do. That question, the first question and most important question on our interviews is, what's your why? Why are you here today? And if someone says, I just need a paycheck, this is good pay, we refer them to other agencies, no problem. But we really want those caregivers.
Go work for our competition.
We really want those caregivers who, start tearing up when they're telling us why they do this and what got them to home care. And, to be able to bond with them like that on that level, it really gives you the confidence, of course, once you've vetted them and they have the skill sets and the experience and the clear background check and drug tests. All of that is first and foremost. But to be able to bond with them on that level, and then to be able to ask them their 5 and 10 year goals and learn more about their family or their children, it's really meaningful. So
the dynamics of family business are tough. I grew up in a family business. My dad owned a company with his brother, and I worked with my cousins when I was going through high school and college, and then a little bit after that, and it made me want to get as far away from there as possible. And when we start talking about leadership and those dynamics in the family business, what are some of your initial thoughts, just before we dig into some more in-depth ideas? What are some of your overall thoughts about working in family business as far as leadership is concerned?
Yeah. So we all really respect each other wearing 2 different hats. Christina, the executive director or administrator hat. And when I take that hat off, I put on my daughter, sister, family member hat. We have one rule, Bob, and it is the most important rule. When we leave work, we do not talk about business. I, of course, am always on call and I'm always dealing with things, but we can handle emergencies, me and our care team and our operations team. So in terms of the family unit, they don't have to worry about it when we're not at the office. We love what we do so much that we may brainstorm or talk new ideas, but we never get into the X's and O's outside of the business office. We want family dinner to be about family and, talking about memories and my grandmother, seeing her. So we don't let the business just completely take over our family dynamic. And I think being able to have that leeway and freedom, and knowing, when I get home from work or I go to dinner with my parents, I'm not going to get asked a million questions about the job. It's very nice. It helps us to really have a little bit of work-life balance. And yeah, I think that rule is very, very helpful for us.
Older brother, younger brother?
Older brother.
Older brother. Is he more introverted, or?
You could say so. He
Usually the IT world,
his brain thinks differently, and sometimes I have to tell him to explain stuff that he says because he's so intellectual. He's pretty brilliant. I hope he's listening to hear that. But yeah, he just sees things differently. He can work on things that I just wouldn't even know how to do, like our server or software system. And he also has his own separate social media agency. So
when when you got the executive director or administrator hat on, and you have an IT problem and it hasn't been fixed properly for a period of time, how do you address the head of IT?
Yeah, administrator role or hat on, and then we got to address it. This is just not okay.
What would
it would start with an email.
You can't talk about the time that he stole your doll when you were 8 years old or
you
something.
always do this.
Yes.
No, we try to keep it professional, and I think that's part of being a leader. You want to lead by example. So I don't want our team to see me talking to my brother like my brother, and us getting in an argument like brother and sister, versus I'm going to be respectful and professional, and he's going to respect me in my role, and I'll respect him too. So if I know he's going through a whole integration of a new phone system to a new cloud, and he's changing our work office and converting new computers, I'm going to give him a little more leeway because I know his plate is full. But definitely still maintaining that professional working relationship.
And then what is the filter at Thanksgiving dinner when something breaks down? You get the call. Mm-hmm. And how do you personalize and stop that from saying,
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a look on our face that other people can read.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to say a word.
Yep. So, the good thing is he's in this for all the right reasons too. My grandmother's his grandmother. He knows we're dealing with family members. So if a caregiver's having problems clocking in, and now it's 2, 3, 4 caregivers, he knows he's got to get on it right away. And I think having that sense of urgency, because we know this is important and why we're in business and why we do what we do, it ultimately drives all of us and everyone on the team, even our caregivers. So
what's the next step? You're not going to work forever. Your brother's not going to work forever. He's going to want to, hire other people. And so what is that next step, and how do you get to it?
Yeah. So right now we really want to focus on growing the business and helping as many families as possible. We also love giving back to our community. So, I think I am in it for the long haul. I don't know how long that is, but definitely the 10-year plan is still with the company. My parents are probably on the way out, retiring pretty soon.
That's a big part of what I'm asking is that they're going to want to retire and travel and do things. And
we want to carry on the business and the name and the legacy my parents have created. There are other families out there and other people's grandmothers that still need care. So we're looking forward to it. You never know. Maybe we'll expand our territory. Maybe we would buy another home care office, or, just increase in different areas.
Where
Lots
is your
of potential.
territory?
So we are
Christina?
actually in 11 counties. So Alachua, Columbia, Bradford, Citrus, Gilchrist, Lafayette, Levy, Marion, Putnam, Sumter, Suwannee, and Union counties.
Oh, okay.
All over.
Yeah. So the furthest south you go is Marion County? Mm-hmm. So like down Ocala way and a little below that. And then you go up to Columbia.
Jacksonville, Advent Christian Village. Now with Ocala, there is a separate Touching Hearts at Home in Ocala. They're completely owned and operated by other owners, so they're ran entirely different.
Is that is that your family's name?
It's part of a franchise.
Okay, so you bought a franchise.
Yeah, Touching Hearts at Home is one of the top 500 in the U.S. in terms of the franchise world. So
didn't know that.
Yeah, we picked it. We love the name. We love their beliefs in God, and the reason why they got started. So the other kind of appealing part that lured us to them is they let all of the owners operate totally independently. Mm-hmm. There's no demands coming down from corporate that things must be done a certain way. So we really enjoy that.
That's interesting from that standpoint. So back to the leadership thing.
Yeah.
What is your style compared to your dad's style?
So I think, if we were looking at my whole family, my father and I are the most alike. And I think just growing up with both of my parents, and I'd say my mom is too, but servant style leadership is very important to us. Okay. It's not about the title. It's not about, the ego and this and that. It is about the customers and the team. How are you making people better by interacting with them, by serving them? What can you give instead of what can you get? And, the more we focus on the we instead of the me, which I hate, I don't like the leaders that say, I did this when there's a team of 6 people that actually did it. That's a huge insult. And, I think it's so important that we're focused on our customers and team every day, like that inverted pyramid. We want to hear our care team's ideas. We want to know their feedback on their clients. Maybe they don't feel like they can tell the family what they're noticing or if they're sensing or seeing signs of dementia. But they can report that to us, and we're going to have that open dialogue and open communication with our clients. So the way we see it, when we were not with Touching Hearts at Home, was kind of this caregiver and client relationship, and the agency really wasn't there. They didn't know what was happening. It was awful. So for us, it's the client, us, and the caregiver, and it's this triangle, and we stay in constant communication, and that's part of the reason why I'm 24/7 for our clients, to provide updates on their mother or father, family members' needs or clinical condition, or medical condition, and then also the caregivers can report any kind of feedback or any kind of changes in their own life that may be, they need to work, they may need to stop working with a certain client if things are not helping each other.
So you mentioned servant type of leadership. For people that might not know what that is, define it as far as your interpretation of what servant leadership is.
So to me, it's service above self.
Rotary.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I joined Rotary. When I heard that, I said, this is a group I could get behind. It's, again, making a positive impact and leaving people better than you found them. And whether they're a client or they're just calling the office or the people I'm meeting today, I want to make sure that I'm always looking for ways to help others. During COVID and prior to COVID, but really during COVID, our sense of corporate social responsibility, it's our duty to serve our community. And that's through our philanthropic efforts, our give back, our donations, but also being able to operate our business and help other families. It's serving with a purpose, and that why I always go back to. I keep a picture of my grandmother and I in my office, and she's my reminder. I share my why with everybody that comes through the door. They know what she looks like. They know to call her Nana if they see her. And, I think that family mentality too, like you're family to us when you join this team, and your clients are family too. So it really is amazing what that kind of leadership style and leading by that example can do. And I think having a really good team dynamic and culture where everybody knows what's expected.
How do you handle tough situations, like employee situations where maybe 2 employees we get on each other's nerves every once in a while, How do you handle that, and where did you learn that style to handle that?
So I think of myself as a firefighter, and friends have got me Firefighter hats. Firehouse Subs has those really cute ones. But to me, putting out a fire or a problem immediately. We don't let things slide. We correct and we adjust and we fix. I'm a problem solver. And problems are inevitable, and no home care agency is perfect. No caregiver is perfect. I'm not perfect. There's no client that's perfect. I take the philosophy that we need to listen. We need to hear sides of a story. We need to gather as much data, facts, input, looking at care notes and details and timestamps, whatever the scenario or situation may be. We've got to look at that data and then see both sides and figure out what really happened. I think that having that open dialogue and people not being scared to approach the leader, they always get shocked when I'm picking up the phone to see if they could cover a shift. Or when I sign on a new client, and I'm calling saying, we think you would be a really good fit for this person. But what about my other client? Well, we're going to talk to them, but we have someone else really good for that client too. So, our goal, and I'm a firefighter, but I'm also a matchmaker.
I was just thinking of that.
We handpick these matches, and you just hope and you pray you get it right based on, the information and the data you've got from both. I do all of our final hiring, and I do all of the family interviews. So when I'm sitting in that consult, I'm hearing their needs, and I'm constantly thinking, who's worked at a hospital or who's worked at the VA with a veteran to help this veteran, or whatever the case may be. We've got to take in all that data, and I'm an analyzer too, so I really like
How do you get a vacation?
evaluating. It's vacation with the on-call phones. It's fine.
You're on call all the time?
Usually, but for a really good vacation, someone from the office will help out. And we, let them know what to expect or what may happen.
Stepping outside of being daughter and just being a person that works within the organization, how would you describe your CEO's leadership style, and what type of an impact does that individual as a CEO have on you on a daily basis?
Yeah, so it's been really rewarding to work with my parents, to see them in this professional light, to see my dad wearing his CEO cap instead of a dad hat. The servant style leadership is definitely something we grew up with. It's our duty to give back. We've always been involved with different philanthropies and causes. But to see him always doing the right thing, no matter if that means we're going to lose money, we're going to lose a client, we're going to lose a caregiver, we've got to always do what's right. If a caregiver, I don't know, let's give you a crazy example. They clocked out 30 minutes after the fact, but they are saying they were there even though we know that they were not there. Their shift ended at 4, they clocked out at 4:30, and they're saying they stayed 30 minutes late, which they would never do if it was dishonest. But he's always going to pay them. He's never going to charge a client, if they feel like they've been overcharged. We don't want to keep a nickel or a dime over what a client owes us, and we want to make sure our caregivers are receiving perks and bonuses and valued and praised and appreciated. And I love that my dad in his CEO office always has that door open, and caregivers come in and they know to say, "Hey, Mr. Rubin," and he's always going to ask, and he knows something about them all, just like I try to. He leads by example. And it really motivates me. And, of course, my mom's the same way.
See how difficult it is, though, for you to – I asked you that question. It was a loaded question. To see if you could discuss the CEO of your company without referring to Dad.
Yeah. Did I do it? Did I do okay? No, yeah.
You can't, and I work with a lot of companies. I'm thinking of 2 right now that have that dynamic, where like Meldon Law, North Florida Pediatrics, 2 companies that I get to work with that are family businesses. And that is something that they struggle with, is to that separation of looking at an individual as what they do and who they are in their role, and not mom, dad, husband, wife, brother, sister type of thing. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Some clients laugh at me because between 9 to 5, I try to call him Reuben.
Yeah, which is difficult for
and they're like,
child.
"You mean your dad?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but he's our CEO, so he's Reuben." And that helps. But the unique dynamic here is, Bob, when I'm talking to clients, we're talking about their mom or their dad or their husband or their wife. So it's a very relatable conversation.
Well, I think back to, I mentioned earlier that I worked in a family business too, and my cousins called their dad Bill at work.
Yep.
Called my dad Bob. It was my Uncle Bill.
Yeah.
And it was Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I could not take myself to that place.
Yeah.
Which it's so individually.
It is.
And my dad was the, head of the company, the person that brought in most of the business, and was the older brother. And so the dynamics were kind of interesting many, many, many years ago, and they're both passed now. But still, it's not easy being in a family business.
It's not.
And being able to, my son worked for me in the radio business for a couple of years, and the first day that he came to work for us, I didn't hire him, somebody else did, and I took him over to a gentleman, and I say, you work for him, and you don't work for me. That's your supervisor.
Yeah.
I'm your dad.
Yeah.
And we kept it that way, and it worked tremendous.
Yeah. Good
when
boundaries.
When he came home, from work, we didn't talk about business. If we talked about business, we talked about it the way we used to talk about when he didn't work for me, because it was the radio business. We could talk about the music or whatever.
Yeah.
We never talked about a problem or a situation. So that has to be difficult.
Yeah, it is, but it does help. It works. Everything you just suggested is we try to do. So
Now, your dad was in banking, and for a long time.
very long time.
Right? What type of leadership skills did he bring from that industry, which is a
Yeah.
regulated also? I mean, very regulated. Everything has got to be precise and accurate. But the leadership side of it, what did he bring to your company from that experience?
My dad has always said never build bridges, and a good leader, or never burn bridges, excuse me. A good leader, you want to be respectful and maintain relationships, and some relationships and business deals may go sour, but you've got to always put people first. And I've really appreciated that about him. His relationships and contacts, he worked very hard to maintain, to build new relationships, to foster relationships. And I just see how that has carried over into our business. And, again, just doing business the right thing. Always doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. When people see my dad, they talk about his other career in banking, that your dad was the best. He always did the right thing. He always tried to help however and whomever he could. And that is still the same today. So, it's really been a great brand and reputation for touching hearts at home. And I can't tell you how proud I am of both of my parents.
I don't know if they still do this in school, but I remember when we used to have a magnet, and you would learn like in second grade or third grade about the magnetic field and the magnetic force. And then they'd put the little shavings, and then you would take the magnet, and you were like amazed when you saw everything come to it. And it kind of reminds me of your company. I've tried to talk about leadership over the last hour, and we talk more about your company and your organization, which is leadership, but it seems like you're that magnetic thing that people just want to come to.
Oh, that's great.
And I wish we could unveil of what the secret sauce is, so that individuals can share that in their own organizations. How can people find you, find your company and your organization?
So if you Google Touching Hearts at Home, you'll find our website, and you can put in your zip code, and it'll show you to the appropriate Touching Hearts at Home. We're also on Facebook, so Touching Hearts at Home Gainesville. That's where we put all the fun stuff, from our community programs and projects to just different events that we host, and also really good resources, quick tips, how to notice if your loved one may be showing signs of Parkinson's, or how to detect signs of a stroke, how to make the home safer. Lots of great tips. So we really love to point people in that direction for resources too.
That's great. And if people are interested in getting on a list to come to work for you, how do they do that?
Yeah, for sure. So they can call our office, and the number is 352-225-3727. And you can call even after hours, because I'm going to answer.
Can you give that number one more time?
Sure. 352-225-3727.
Okay, great. And so you're always interviewing and
all the time, the best of the best. And we try to deter people if they don't have what it takes, and they don't have the experience or the drive and the self-determination and work ethic to really be not good, not great, but exceptional, then we're not the right agency.
In our society, we tend to work in threes. So red, white, and blue, green, yellow, red.
True.
We 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
I mean, we tend to work in threes.
Yeah.
So what are the three main attributes that you would look for? Just three main attributes that you would look for in an employee.
So they have to be experienced, because that is so important based on our family's experiences. They have to be caring or compassionate, because, if you're just changing diapers because you're experienced, that's not going to be a good thing. And then they need to be honest and trustworthy, because that's the foundation of our services and whatnot. So Those three things make a really great candidate and a long-term care partner on our team.
I appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks so much
Thank
for
you,
having
Christina.
me. It was great.
I mean, learning more about you and your company and your organization and your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
It's there was many times I wanted to go in a different way with the questioning, but you're such an enthusiastic person that I just wanted to listen to what you had to say. So I appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you very much. It was a great time.
This is MotivationU the podcast, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. For our engineer and producer, Evan Miller, my name is Bob Ganzak. Thank you for being here.